I want you to ask yourself a question. I want you to ask yourself, how much revenue do I need to earn during my peak season in order to weather storms or slower seasons? And it's important to really establish realistic sales value, right, of target revenue. And it's important to do that in order to create the strategy that you need to do in order to implement that so that you have enough real revenue or gross margins to be able to carry on with your business and create the budget and the profitability that you want. And what you're going to do as part of that strategy is you're going to develop an optimum price point with that. And what I want to talk about today is, what do you do when you have excess cash left over at the end of the month, right, in your mats and subs account or in your OpEx account, right? And it's a nice thing, right? It's something that's worth celebrating, something to get excited about when you have excess cash that's left over in your mats and subs and OpEx account, right? And what it means is that you made more money, right? You either increased your revenue or potentially you got really tight on the belt and you actually saved more, which is the goal, right? Is to increase your profits. So when you have excess cash in that bank account at the end of the month, it's an amazing thing to happen. And today's topic is really, really important because I think this is an area that goes wrong a lot in profit first. And I really want to deep dive in it. I want to talk about it so that you're aware when it's happening so you can implement procedures in place to really be able to take advantage of when this happens to you. And I'm going to say happens for you because it really is a blessing when you have excess cash in that mats and subs account or in that OpEx account. And I want you to be able to take advantage and really deploy the best strategy for it. And the reason why it goes wrong a lot of times with entrepreneurs and profit first is because as business owners, we naturally abide by something called Parkinson's law, right? And it's a human tendency, Parkinson's law. And Parkinson's law, you may have heard me talk about it a few times before. It's all about supply and demand. And what happens in Parkinson's law is when you have more of something, right? When you have an abundancy of something, whether it be supplies or money or anything, right? Labor, we tend to use more of it, right? And I like to use the example of Golden Corral, right? And Golden Corral, I'm assuming it's in all parts of the country, but it's this famous buffet, right? I think nobody brags about going to the Golden Corral. And I'll be honest with you, whenever I've left Golden Corral, I have actually never, ever, ever been proud of myself. And when you go into this Golden Corral, it's this smorgasbord, right? It's what they call it. It's a buffet. And there are so many options in this buffet, right? So many plates, right? And they don't make you feel bad if you go back again because you just grab another clean plate and they're always there to clean up your plate. So you don't see like the 5 plates that are stacked, right? And there's so many options, right? That, when you go into this buffet, you can't help yourself, right? You end up eating a whole lot more than what you normally would at a sitting, right? You end up getting a salad, you get a main course, you get a dessert, you might try another dessert, you might try another second course, right? You start to eat more than what you would normally eat. And in contrast, if you would go to an hors d'oeuvre dinner, so let's say we're getting together and we're getting a bunch of our colleagues, right? We're going to eat a lot less, right? First of all, the plates are going to be really small. The appetizers, it's not going to be a main course, right? It's going to be like chicken on a stick or something, right? Skewers. And as a result, we're still going to eat, right? Because we're socialized to eat in those environments when everybody's eating. And what's going to happen is we're still going to feel full when we leave this event. But what's going to happen is we're going to eat a lot less, right? We're going to eat a lot less because of the social environment, because the plates are smaller, and also because there just aren't a lot of options, right? When you go to hors d'oeuvre dinner. And so as a result, we're going to leave a lot more. We're probably not going to think about food when we leave, right? We're going to be full. But what happened is we consumed a lot less than when we went to the Golden Corral, right? When you compare those two environments, we're going to eat a lot less just because the plates were smaller, right? The options were less. And that's the same way it is with entrepreneurship and money too, right? When it comes time to making decisions, a lot of times entrepreneurs, instead of looking at their financial statements, they're going to go look at their bank accounts, right? They're going to look at their bank accounts. And if they just got paid, right? If mama just got paid, we're going to see abundance, right? We're going to see abundance in his bank account. And suddenly we're going to find ourselves going, if somebody's saying, hey, can I get a new computer? Or maybe if you guys are Surface Pro themes like me, maybe Microsoft just launched a new Surface Pro. If you guys are MacBook fans, maybe Apple just launched a new MacBook, right? Maybe that new computer is not necessarily a luxury item, but it's something that can make my business better. And why not? I have the money in my bank account. I can afford it, right? Or there might be a new program that's coming out, a new coaching program, right? Or maybe I've been needing to hire somebody, but not really, but I have that feeling I'm about to grow. And so I want to bring that person, right? These things suddenly become endless possibilities, right? And when we're looking at this bank account that has a bigger balance than normal, right? We start to see a growth trajectory that maybe we didn't see the day before, right? And we start to gamble on ourselves, right? And sometimes even in the most well-designed budgets, right? Even if you dotted your I's, crossed your T's, and you've created this budget, the temptation is still there, right? Because that's human nature. That's Parkinson's law. And the thing with Profit First, you're using this OPEX account, right, to make decisions. You're looking at this OPEX. Do I have money? But the problem is, again, is when you have excess money, suddenly it seems like you can spend more money, right? Again, Parkinson's law. And today, what I want to do is I want to talk about what do you do with that excess cash, specifically cash that's in your OPEX account or in your mats and subs accounts. And I want to talk about it so that we can make sure today that this money works for you in the future. It's a very important topic. And before I begin, first of all, every one of you guys should have a budget. This is not just a budget that you do once a year, and then you forget about it, right? This is not a once a year exercise, right? And this budget is not just an annual budget, but it should have a monthly budget too. It should break down month by month. What can I expect to spend? What can I expect that's being good? That's going to come through the bank account as being revenue. What am I predicting in my business? And this business, again, this budget, it's about predicting your revenue, right? But not just predicting your revenue, but also predicting your cost of goods sold, or what we call in Profit First, mats and subs, right? And it should also be predicting your operating expenses, but not just operating expenses in general, but breaking it down category by category, how you're actually tracking in your financial statements. This budget should really reflect the same types of categories, right? And this should be a living budget, right? Meaning that, it's not a budget that you're creating just for the sake of a budget, right? We're not creating this because of a class exercise, right? We're creating this budget in order to project your spending and your revenue, right? To be able to make financial decisions and exercise that self-control that might be needed. But what happens is if you find yourself, getting very aggressive, right? If you find yourself getting very aggressive and decreasing your spend, if you find yourself really being able to find things, that you can just knock off, right? What might happen is you might find yourself in a budget surplus. And what a budget surplus is, it means that your net income or your cash flow, right, is actually more than your current operating expenses, which is a good thing, right? If you find yourself in that position, right? And if you have a seasonal business, right, a business that has peaks and valleys, maybe like retail that gets more busy at Christmas, or manufacturing will starting to get more busy at this time, right? If you have a seasonal business and this is your busy time in the season, well, you may start to experience a budget surplus, right, at different peaks and valleys in your business, right? And the temptation is for a lot of entrepreneurs, when they see this money in this OPEX account, right, they're like, whoa, I just got paid. Daddy just got paid. Mama just got paid, right? It's what happens. And what happens is they go, okay, I'm going to increase my operating expense. Maybe I can go ahead and get this membership or this subscription. But I'm going to advise you, that's one of the worst things that you can do. Okay. It's one of the worst things you can do, because if you are in a seasonal business, right? If you're in a seasonal business and you're finding yourself struggle, right? Because there are going to be parts of your season that are going to be lower, where you're going to have less revenue, less clients, less sales, right? If you overspend in your peak season, you're not going to have the funding to make it through the valleys, right? And that money that you're earning during this peak time, right, during these heavy seasons, are going to be monies that you're going to need to cover your slower seasons, okay? And so what I want you to do is, I want you at the end of every single month, right, instead of leaving that money available to be spent in your operating expense account or in your mats and subs account, what I want you to do is, I actually want you to drain that excess cash, okay? I'm going to say that again. I want you to drain that excess cash at the end of the month, okay? And I'm talking about excess cash in your mats and subs account, excess cash in your operating expense account. And what I want you to do is, I want you to place it in a specialized savings account, okay? And I want you to create 2 additional bank accounts. One is called the Mats and Subs Vault account, and the other one is called the OpEx Vault account, okay? And I want you to do is, at the end of each month, is I want you to analyze the amounts that you're seeing left over. And I want you to drain that excess amount into the Mats and Subs bank account, into the OpEx Vault bank account. But here's the point. Here's something a little bit different versus, the profit or the regular vault account. I don't want you to be married to these vault accounts, okay? I don't want you to be married to these vault accounts. I don't want you to feel ashamed if you have to dip in it. And what's going to happen is these monies that you're putting into these excess vault accounts, they're going to accumulate, right? And what I mean is that, when I say I don't want you to be married to growing this pot of money, is because if you do need to dip into these accounts, right? If you need to dip into the Mats and Subs vault account or the operating expense vault account, specifically during a lower season, right, where revenue isn't at its peak, right? I don't want you to feel ashamed about that, as long as you're spending the money on budgeted expenses. So first of all, if you have to dip into these accounts, you're only spending it for budgeted expenses, not miscellaneous expenses, not for Susanne to get a new MacBook, right? We're spending it for miscellaneous expenses, budgeted expenses, not spur of the moment expenses, right? We're not spending these on infomercials that may have popped up at 2 o'clock in the morning or Facebook ads, right? Again, we're just spending this money if we have to tap into these vault accounts on budgeted expenses. Okay. And I want you guys to have fun outside of your business, right? I don't want you to be getting excited because a new MacBook came out for your business, right? And I don't want you souping up your business like it's a fancy car, right? I want you guys to run on budgeted expenses. Now, if you find that you need to borrow from this OpEx vault account, right, for budget expenses, again, I don't want you to feel guilty about it, right? I don't want you to feel guilty about dipping into this vault account because that money was actually earmarked for OpEx expenses, right? We're just exercising stewardship, right? We're just exercising stewardship through the use of physics, right, to protect those funds. And we're protecting those funds by moving them into the vault bank account, right? Don't you guys love physics, right? Don't you love it? That movement of money. If I don't see it, I don't remember it. If I don't remember it, I don't spend it, right? So a lot of fun there. And that's the same way with Mats and Subs, right? Mats and Subs, if you require more money for Mats and Subs to purchase inventory for your upcoming busy season, right? That money is there for you to increase that spend on inventory so that you can make those sales during the busy season versus figuring out how am I going to get inventory to make sales? And oh my gosh, we just ran out of money. You're actually having that money there to look at it. Kind of like retail or manufacturing, you guys may need to purchase inventory for your busy seasons, right? And one of the things that I like to do is I like to watch the ebbs and the flows throughout the year, right? I like to look at my profit and loss statement month by month, right? And then specifically, not just month by month, but I like to look at several years, right? Because I like to get an idea of the trends. I like to see where are my peaks, where are my valleys. Can I forecast my cash flows for my upcoming months based on my historical movement? And it's important to take a realistic look because those valleys are real, right? Those valleys, they exist in just about every single business. And businesses tend to slow down. They tend to slow down, unless you have a monthly membership or some type of reoccurring revenue model. Every business tends to have its ebbs and flows. And this is good to look into, even if you don't have a reoccurring revenue model, because you do want to look at opportunities to create reoccurring revenue models in order to stabilize your cash flow and really make your cash flow more predictable. And what you're going to do is you're going to find that, again, most businesses have seasonal trends, right? Even if you don't think that you do, once you take that 1,000-foot look back, you may start to see those seasonal trends. And it's important to embrace those seasonal trends. Cash flow that's earned during your peak season, right? During your busy season, you're going to need that cash flow during your slow seasons. And it's important in your analysis to look at the amounts of gross margin, and not just gross margin, but also look at your projected profit for your business. Now, gross margin is probably the closest thing to real revenue in the profit first world. Gross margin by definition is your total revenue less your direct costs. Direct costs being your direct labor, people that are actually doing the fulfillment of your work, like contract labor, materials, etc. And so, for quick and ease, sometimes we just have to monitor gross margins instead of real revenue when we're looking at our financial statements. But gross margin is not the same thing as real revenue because real revenue includes different items, right? But it's the closest thing, again, from a financial reporting purpose. And then what I want you to do after you've looked at gross margins and profit, what I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself a question. I want you to ask yourself, how much revenue do I need to earn during my peak season in order to weather storms or slower seasons? How much revenue do I need to have, right? I want you to start benchmarking that. And it's important to really establish realistic sales value, right, of target revenue. And it's important to do that in order to create the strategy that you need to do in order to implement that so that you have enough real revenue or gross margins to be able to carry on with your business and create the budget and the profitability that you want. And what you're going to do as part of that strategy is you're going to develop an optimum price point with that. And again, what I'm saying is your budget is your best friend, right? Your budget is your best friend. And I can't tell you, outside of God, that's the thing that sticks closest to me during my workday. Okay. I'm constantly looking and constantly modifying and monitoring that budget. When you tell your money where to go, you're going to get the results that you're seeking. I often surprise myself, right? When I hide money, I'm telling you, it's like Christmas time in the middle of the summer. It's like out of sight, out of mind. And if you don't need the money, if you find that you don't actually need to use it, which some of you guys are going to find that excess money and mats and stuff, you don't really need to use it. You might be just giving yourself a huge bonus at the end of the year. And who wouldn't want an end of the year bonus, right? This might become your bonus money if you hide this money and you're disciplined with it, right? And so today, I hope that today was really, really helpful for you guys. And it was amazing hanging out today. And until next time, may the profits be with you.